Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
My name is Jennifer Simmons. I never asked to look like him, but I do. Every time I glance in the mirror, I see the ghost of my father, his sharply set jaw, the downward curve at the corners of his mouth, and those dark, defiant eyes that never begged for forgiveness. I was 8 the last time I saw him. He kissed my forehead and promised to write. He never did. My mother never forgave him, and she never forgave me for wearing his face. She remarried when I was 11. Thomas Simmons, mild, beer-bellied, the kind of man who used silence as power. With him came Bennett, his smug son from a previous marriage who at 15 already treated me like I was beneath him, and Mom, she softened around him, as if he were the child she'd always wanted. At dinner, she laughed at his jokes. She ironed his shirts. She never once asked me how school was. I remember hiding an award certificate in the trash, just so she wouldn't say, "Don't brag, Jennifer." Years passed. I moved out, earned a degree in finance, climbed higher than anyone expected, especially her. My success never seemed to matter. But still, I called every Sunday, sent gifts, and when they were tired, I offered to help. "Don't worry about money," I said on the phone. "I'll send something monthly, just until you settle." "Only if you're sure," she said. I was sure. Every month, $3,500 left my account. Quietly, dutifully, until 2 weeks ago when I pulled up to their house for a surprise visit and heard Ryan, my stepbrother, the one who played at being everyone's hero, talking to a neighbor on the porch. "I pay for everything," he said. "They fall apart without me. I cover the bills, taxes, car maintenance. You know, real son stuff." My mouth went dry. Real son. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I rang the doorbell and pasted on a smile. Mom answered, blinking like she hadn't expected me to show up uninvited. "Oh, Jennifer, you didn't say you were coming." "I wanted to surprise you." She hesitated, then stepped aside. We weren't really expecting guests. Inside, the walls were just as I remembered, overcrowded with framed photos. Family trips I wasn't invited to. Christmases I spent alone. And then there it was. The portrait from my 30th birthday, hanging near the hallway lamp. I stepped closer, feeling my stomach churn. There was something scrawled across the glass in thick, black ink. Bloodsucker. My breath hitched. I knew that handwriting. I'd seen it on birthday cards she wrote for Bennett, on recipe notes she slipped into Thomas's lunchbox. My mother's handwriting. I didn't say a word. I turned back toward the kitchen where they were all laughing over tea. I joined them, pretending nothing had happened. But something inside me was already shifting, quietly, dangerously. And for the first time in years, I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for the truth. I wasn't surprised when Mom didn't call after I left. I knew better than to expect concern from a woman who could scribble Bloodsucker across her own daughter's face. The next morning, I pulled up every bank transaction from the last 3 years. $3,500 every month, never late. I printed each receipt and circled the notes I'd added. For Mom's meds, for Thomas's car repair. Then I called the family accountant. "Mr. Talbot." "Jennifer Simmons, who's been filing my mom and Thomas's taxes." A pause. "Ryan Simmons." I gripped the phone, and he claimed he was financially supporting them. "Yes, that's what's on file." "Thank you," I said and ended the call. That evening, I called Mom. "Jennifer?" "I'll be at the reunion Saturday," I said. "It's time for clarity." She hesitated. "What do you mean by that?" "You'll see." On the day of the reunion, Ryan waved at me across the lawn. "Jen, glad you made it." "I'm sure you are." Dinner was strained. Conversations passed around me like I was invisible. But I waited. And when dessert came, I stood. I'd like to say something. Chairs shifted. Glasses clanked. For the past 3 years, I've sent $3,500 monthly to Mom and Thomas. I began, placing the folder on the table. I've covered their insurance, utilities, groceries. Gasps rippled. My mother's lips parted in stunned silence. "I know some of you believed otherwise," I said, looking at Ryan. That someone else was the generous provider. He stood. "Jennifer, don't do this." "I already did." I turned to Mom. "You called me a bloodsucker, but I've been the only one keeping your lights on." She opened her mouth, then closed it. "I'm done pretending this family isn't broken. I said, and I'm done paying to keep the illusion alive. I sat down. Sound was the tick of the wall clock and the crack of Ryan's fork hitting his pie. The room didn't explode. It cracked silently, like glass under a slow-growing weight. My mother finally spoke. "You're lying." I stared at her. "You can open the folder. Every bank receipt. Every note. Every dollar." Ryan snatched it off the table, flipping through the pages in disbelief that looked a little too rehearsed. "This isn't. These are out of context," he stammered. Thomas leaned forward, his face pale. "Wait, is this true?" Ryan's lips thinned. I stepped back from the table. Ryan's been taking credit for my support, while running 2 fraudulent real estate LLCs, both of which are now under IRS investigation. I have the case numbers if anyone's curious. Aunt Delia dropped her fork. "Lord have mercy." "Jennifer," Mom snapped, slamming her hand against the table. "You don't air family matters like this." I looked at her, no longer pleading, just done. "You wrote Bloodsucker on my photo," I said softly. "Turns out, the only one draining anyone here is your golden boy." Thomas looked ready to speak, but Mom raised her hand, silencing even him. "Get out," she hissed. I smiled, cold and calm. "With pleasure." I turned, heels clicking on tile. Behind me, Ryan's voice cracked through the silence. "She's jealous, always has been." But his words slid off me like rain on glass. Let them sit in their frosting and fake smiles. I had already lit the match. Let the truth burn. 3 days later, the storm broke. A terse voice now from Thomas. "IRS agents came this morning. Ryan's been arrested." I sipped my coffee in silence. By noon, news broke online. Local investor Ryan Simmons under federal investigation for fraud, tax evasion. His smug photo below the headline looked less charming in handcuffs. Then came Mom's call. "You ruined us." Her voice was cracked glass. "No," I said. "You ruined yourself by building a shrine around a lie." There was silence, then a whisper, bitter and trembling. "He's still my son. And I was your daughter," I said. "You just never saw me." I hung up before she could respond. Later that evening, I received an email from a lawyer. My financial contributions had been fraudulently filed under Ryan's name on joint tax returns. Thomas's accounts were frozen. The entire house of cards was collapsing. That night, standing by my window, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. The truth had scorched through the rot. And they, my mother, Thomas, and Ryan, were finally feeling the heat. I returned to the house one last time, not for them, but for myself. The portrait still hung in the hallway, glass cracked, the word Bloodsucker faintly visible beneath a sloppy attempt to wipe it clean. I didn't flinch. Mom sat slouched on the sofa, eyes hollow, papers in her lap. Court summons, IRS letters, a foreclosure notice. Thomas was gone. Ryan was awaiting trial. The silence in the house was thicker than grief. "You're happy now, aren't you?" She rasped without looking at me. "No," I said softly. "Just, finally free." She scoffed, but I stepped closer, placing a small envelope on the table. Inside, my last check. 1 month's support. Closure, not charity. "I loved you once," she murmured. "When you were little. Before you looked so much like him." That sentence didn't ache like it used to. I know I whispered, but I don't live in that shadow anymore. I left without looking back. Outside, the cold air kissed my skin like a benediction. In my car, I opened my phone to a photo of my dearest and most beloved friend, my dog Milo, who will always love me no matter what.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.